Hi, it's Betsy Jordan, and this is Behind the Curtain IMO. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is in my opinion. I always advise do your own research. But I'm finding that sharing with you what I know is letting me know how much more I need to learn and how much more I get to find out. So sometimes after I've spoken to you on video, I will go and research something that I've been talking about so that the next time I present it to you, it will have more information because I've realized there's some questions I need to ask. So don't think that I know everything, but I will say to you that I have been involved in politics, Democratic Party politics for sure, for the last 40 years. That's hard to believe, just so hard to believe, but and that's actually when I was personally serving on boards and serving in the party at various capacities. And I was actually involved before that. So for a long time. And the landscape of politics has changed quite a bit. There are things that I would automatically have supported that I all of a sudden am having a question mark about. We are proud in North Carolina of our higher education system. I still believe it's one of the best in the world. And you know, the school that I graduated from, the University of North Carolina, was just named a Southern Ivy, even though it was considered a Southern Ivy League school a while back. And what does that mean anymore? The public education system, because it's involving so much money, has gotten interested parties involved that are there for the position and for the money. And so you're going to hear things about the pursuit of all kinds of research, and you're going to find that there are parties that are against research in general, or research for medical good, or research within the university system, or researching things like vaccines, researching things for specific diseases and for specific causes. And I'm going to say to you that there is a fine line, as there is with everything. It's like, okay, on the one hand, you don't want a perfect balance, because if you have a perfect balance, that would lead to a very, very boring and possibly mediocre life. So you want to take risks here and there. And because honestly, when you create change or create anything different, somebody has gotten out of their comfort zone to do it. So I want to talk about we talk about the money game a lot in the world, and sometimes, you know, numbers and finances drive people a little crazy. They're like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it because that makes me uncomfortable. But just like in everything else, there are things that swing back and forth to different extremes. And I'd say that we have in this country gotten to a place where, you know, people seem to think that making more and more and more money is a great thing, and B, necessary. Now, I can't really speak to what it's like for someone from an experiential place to never have anything. First of all, to be a citizen of the United States, we're gifted with a whole lot more than most people begin with. When you look at Africa and whole villages, their children surviving on eating leaves, which is happening in some parts of Africa, you recognize how lucky you are. But this is not guilting or shaming you for living in America. It's one of the things that many people aspire to do. And so when we talk about our higher education or higher learning, and when we talk about public education and the fact that having an educated populace makes us a stronger nation, you're going to note that there are a lot of people who believe that our public education system was broken. There are people who believe that demonstrations and protestations and things like that are going to change things. Rarely does that happen, but it does raise awareness. So speaking out is really important, and it's a valuable thing in this country. And for anybody to say whatever they need to say at any point in time, very valuable thing. We have such a thing as hate speech, though, and we now have laws against that. Somebody coming out and speaking out against a person or persons with hate in their voices or hate in their thoughts. And unfortunately, the definition of that kind of thing is narrow. So I'm never going to say that protesting is a bad thing or that speaking out is a bad thing. I completely believe in it and completely agree with it. What I am going to advocate, because of and I keep saying rocks are hard, water's wet, because of the known facts of the matter, is that we have this thing called campaign financing. And then we have things like, university tuition. And then we have sort of a social pressure, if you will, for companies to make more and more money to please their stockholders, etc. And for universities to provide certain services and pay their professors and pay them a living wage, which begins to keep going up and up and up. And then we have inflation, which we are bringing down now. But what I'm saying is it is a challenge, and to some people it is a game that people play to try to change the mentality of a nation from, we've got to be the biggest and best producer, we've got to be the biggest and best money maker, we've got to be able to be the strongest economy in the world, we have to help people and support people militarily. We do need to support our allies. I mean, those kinds of things are on the list of things for people to consider. But campaign financing and the way that we are conducting our elections does need to change. So you've heard RFK bring awareness to the table of the fact that there's a two-party system, and there is, by and large, a two-party system. That, I've said to you, is not going to change between now and the election. And Democrat selection of their nominee, I've already gone over. And for some of you, that's boring, boring, boring stuff. But I'm going to share with you that a Joe Lieberman made some changes just by virtue of running as an independent, made some changes in policy and how the elected president, looked at certain things in the world because they garnered a lot of support. I think that RFK and conversations that he was having are in the water of how our next president is going to take a look at campaign financing and at the two-party system and at how they serve. And you can already see that influence at the Democratic National Convention. When you see Republicans speaking up in favor of voting for a Democrat and saying that is being a patriot in this particular election season. So I think that is the influence of people who are actually speaking up and speaking out for, say, the Poor People's Campaign or the Green Party, or just running as an independent in general. I think you're also seeing the result of Bernie Sanders. I think when you saw forgiveness of student debt, that came from Bernie Sanders running for president and also raising awareness. So what I would say to you is recognize that, yes, things need to change. And also recognize that it is, as Obama said, it is like a cargo ship. If you turn it a little bit, just a little bit, you change the trajectory of that ship forever. If you pick a point on the horizon and you shift the wheel just a little to the right, where you're going to end up is going to be somewhere different. It's just picking that right point and taking that step. It's difficult to have that happen in a 4-year period. Our president has done a great deal that we've not been able to see where that point is on the horizon, where he's headed. But in general, what he's done is made some great strides and done some great generational good for the American public. We can be proud of that as a country, as a nation. And there are a lot of complicated issues going on out there. But what you're seeing is that there are people calling for different actions to happen. They wanted us to be acting faster to protect the Palestinians and wanted the country to be able to move faster to help people in the middle class. And I'm going to say that those are all very worthy things. And to get the ship to move that way means bringing everyone along with us. So it's working within that system to change the system, which is what Bernie did a great job of, I will say. Even though that might not have been his primary goal. His primary goal was to be president of the United States. But in the end, he got the ship to move. And I think that's been great for the American people. This has been Behind the Curtain IMO. Thank you for being here.